Quick side note before I start the video, I recently got Longclaw for my birthday, it's over there. But yeah, here it is. In sheer beauty, like, oh my god. It's the Valyrian steel replica. Obviously make sure you're 18 years of age if you want to purchase this and all that, but yeah, it's so cool. Like, Jon Snow is obviously my favourite character in A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, and just, I love Longclaw, I love the show's Longclaw, it's gorgeous. Come brothers, now fight with me! God, it's so cool, like, look at that. If you have any last words, my lord. Now is the time. So yeah, that's just going to be in the background now of these videos. So we finally have a full-length trailer for House of the Dragon. There was a teaser trailer that came out earlier this year. I didn't cover that just because I wasn't really interested in it. I didn't really care for that teaser. Like, aside from the fact that the color grading in that original teaser reminded me of The Witcher, and I was like, that doesn't look like Game of Thrones. And in addition to that, the teaser wasn't very impactful. Like, I just didn't care. I was still in that, you know, post Game of Thrones season 8 blues of just like, man, the legacy of this show is just ruined. No one cares about this show, and just, I didn't care. I didn't want to cover it. I wasn't interested. However, this trailer actually started to get me excited. It highlighted the cast. It showed us some of the snippets of the dialogue. It set a tone. It very much felt like its own distinct thing. But it also still managed to maintain the Game of Thrones feel. Like, I was watching this and I was like, okay, I'm seeing the magic of Game of Thrones, the early seasons of Game of Thrones in this. This could be good. I will say though, I am still a bit trepidatious about this show, just because I don't care about the Targaryens. I haven't read Fire and Blood, but I just wasn't compelled to because the Targaryens, I don't really care for them. The only Targaryen characters I really care for is Jon Snow, Rhaegar Targaryen, and Daenerys kind of, but also Viserys Targaryen. I thought Viserys was a fantastic character in the first book. And in the show too, Harry Lloyd is just perfect as Viserys. I love him so much in Game of Thrones Season 1. And look, I'm assuming Fire and Blood is a great book. From what I've been told, the Targaryen history is really fascinating. I remember watching a couple of those animated featurettes they did on the Targaryen history for Game of Thrones when it was coming out, and it was really interesting. And from what I understand, the show is covering that stuff. And the reason why I haven't read Fire and Blood was that I finished the Game of Thrones saga, you know, all of the main books, and I got to the end and I was like, okay, cool. That's it. I'm kind of burnt out a little bit. I probably will go and read Fire and Blood at some point. I definitely want to listen to the audiobook of Dunk and Egg because it's narrated by Harry Lloyd. But I probably will go and read Fire and Blood at some point. It might be a little while from now just because I am committing to the Wheel of Time book series, but I will eventually read it, and I assume it's a great book. I mean, George R. R. Martin, as much as I bag on him and call him the old fraud because he hasn't released Winds of Winter, that's like an inside joke. Like, I don't think George R. R. Martin is a terrible writer at all. I think he's an absolute master. His writing is just fantastic, but I am still annoyed that he hasn't released the Winds of Winter. Like, he can have enough time to consult on House of the Dragon and start writing material for Game of Thrones spin-offs, but he won't finish the book series that started all of this. Like, come on. Like, that's ridiculous. And look, this isn't me bagging on George R. R. Martin. I understand that writing a book takes time. I'm currently writing a novel myself, and it's quite long, and it's a very difficult and tricky process. And obviously, he very much seems like a perfectionist. He wants A Song of Ice and Fire to be his legacy. Like, it is his legacy, but he wants to finish it in the proper way so that it doesn't feel rushed, and it's a very satisfactory ending. Unlike the show. And look, the thing is, I don't envy him for having to finish off this book series, because I got to the end of A Dance with Dragons, and I was like, how the hell is he going to wrap this all up? Especially with the ideas and theories about what's going to happen in the next couple of books, and how Jon Snow needs to be resurrected, but also Daenerys needs to fight the incoming invaders and take back Slaver's Bay. Tyrion's descent and how Tyrion starts corrupting Daenerys and all that. Like, the books are fascinating, but they're also very complex, and I don't envy him at all, especially the others subplot in the book. Like, I don't understand how he's going to wrap up the whole White Walker threat in the next 2 books, just because when you compare the books to the show, the books have barely done anything with the others. And I recall hearing that when Benioff and Weiss were writing the later seasons of Game of Thrones, I think season 5 and onwards, they wanted to rush to the White Walker stuff because they found it more interesting than the actual politics of the later books, which is kind of silly because the politics are very interesting, especially the Tyrion stuff. Like, what they do to Tyrion after season 4 is just I'll talk about it at some point, I think. Anyways, I'm going on a massive tangent right now about Song of Ice and Fire and how I don't envy George R. R. Martin for finishing off the books. But still, he needs to finish off the books. It's been 10 years. That is a ridiculous amount of time, even with procrastination and life getting in the way. Like, 10 years is just too much. But I believe in him. I think the old fraud. But in terms of House of the Dragon, the thing that made me really interested about this trailer was that they were showcasing the talent they have on display. They have Riz Ifans, they have Matt Smith, they have Olivia Cook. And I'm really interested to see what they do with Matt Smith's character. I mean, Matt Smith, just from the pictures alone, looks like a perfect Targaryen. But also, Matt Smith is a fantastic actor. He hasn't been in the best stuff recently. Like, I wasn't a fan of Last Night in Soho, and I wasn't a fan of Morbius at all. I mean, like, Morbius memes aside, like, Morbius is not a good film. But Matt Smith was good in those films, and I think he's a great performer. I loved him on Doctor Who, and I can't wait to see what he brings to the Game of Thrones universe. And of course you have the dragons, and the whole show looks very cinematic and filmic, which is very good because obviously Game of Thrones set the standard for TV cinematography and how you can make TV look like films. And Miguel Sapochnik is involved in this show, like he's directing a bunch of the episodes, and I think he's an executive producer or something on it, but like, Miguel Sapochnik is fantastic. He's one of the best Game of Thrones directors. I think he probably is the best Game of Thrones director. He's so good. I love his visual style, the stuff he brought to Hard Home and Battle of the Bastards, and even The Long Night, even though obviously the lighting issues with The Long Night. The sequence where the Night King is walking towards Bran is genuinely fantastic and an absolute spectacle to watch. It's just so good. Oh, and the season 6 finale too, that is a fantastically directed episode. Light of the Seven, Jon Snow's coronation as King in the North, like, absolutely amazing moments. I'm so happy that Miguel Sapochnik is involved in this show, and hopefully he brings something really epic and special to us, because right now, A Song of Ice and Fire, the Game of Thrones franchise, really needs it. But other than that, I don't really have much to say about the trailer other than the fact that it got me intrigued. The music in it was good, it was bringing back the Targaryen themes, it was bringing back the Game of Thrones theme, and it felt very fitting and epic, and it just highlighted that this show should be potentially on the same level as Game of Thrones. Especially those early seasons, fingers crossed. I mean, George R. R. Martin has given that his seal of approval, but then again, he also gave the last couple of seasons of Game of Thrones his seal of approval, so can't really take that into account that much. But to wrap up, I think House of the Dragon looks good so far. That trailer definitely got me excited, and I can't wait to see the actors and the story unfold. But yeah, to summarize, I think House of the Dragon looks good. This trailer definitely did a much better job at raising my anticipation levels. It's highlighting the cast and the visual style of the show, and it did in many ways capture the feeling I got watching Game of Thrones, specifically those earlier seasons. I mean, the music had a lot to do with that, but at the end of the day, it was definitely giving me the vibes of this is something to look out for. This should hopefully be of good quality. But what did you guys think of the trailer? Let me know in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, follow me on social media, all that good stuff. And until we meet again, I'll see you guys next time.